with solid state. Then we'll decide which progression, like whether we should do organic before something and all. We'll do it after. We'll think about it later after the bridge classes. So I'll be starting with the first unit, that is solid state. I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Oh.
ma'am.
So we are, as we discussed yesterday, we are following the current like 2020-2021 grade 12 syllabus, that is after the reduction. Okay, we are not taking the actual syllabus because we don't know, maybe next year we may have a still same topic which is reduced. So it will be wastage of time if you start with a complete portion. So we are looking for this revised syllabus, and based on this syllabus only we'll be taking the lessons until CBSE announces the final one. If at all, if the CBSE say that okay, the full chapter is coming, there is no reduction, then we may discuss the other points later. So only what is important and on the revised curricular syllabus only we will be discussing now. Just to say, like, just for sake of like what, not to waste the time much, because otherwise it will be wastage of time. Like last year what happened, we completed all the chapters, and some of the chapters and part of some chapters were reduced in the month of June. So in this time we don't want that kind of things to happen. So we'll be looking onto the reduced syllabus and we'll be continuing. So as you can see over here, solid state, it's a classification of solids based
Excuse
on.
me.
Yes.
Ma'am, as for the notebook, is it okay if I use a register as a?
Yeah, it's up to you. I don't humble for any type of book, but there should be one book. Actually,
Right.
I want to check on that before. Is there everyone is having a notebook? Can you all just show it in your video? Just show it. Okay. Many are just showing, but some are not. Okay.
Should we leave a page before writing, like after the index?
Up to you. Just leave it leave one page. Yeah.
Ma'am, can you continue with the 11th grade notebook? Because I started a second notebook in 11th grade, but I just used few pages in it. So
if it's only a very less number of pages used, then you can use it, but make sure that pages are covered, because in grade 12 when we take for the correction of something later, it should be like only grade 12 topic coming, right? So you can just
okay,
cover that pages. Yeah, right. Okay, so that you can start writing with the heading solid state, put today's date and everything. This one is not required to write it down because we don't know whether this is the final syllabus for you. We are just starting with whatever we have for this year. So for your grade 12, we don't know whether this will be following, but this is the main points which is coming in solid state. So on the point of view of examination, calculation of density of a unit cell was one of an important question which usually asks. Packing efficiency, point defect. These are the areas where repeatedly questions are asked from this chapter, and about the properties of amorphous and crystalline solid. But if you want to know what is packing efficiency, then you should know about the unit cell and its two-dimensional and three-dimensional arrangement, lattice, everything. So that means all the points are related. Basically, you can say that the topic is of two different sections. One is about talking about different type of arrangement geometry, and other one is looking for different defects. So this is the overall view of this chapter, solid state. So about solid, liquid and gas, I think grade 1 or 2 from that level you started discussing about states of matter. So I'm not going to discuss about what is the different properties of these states of matter, that you will be knowing. But one thing is for sure, that you might have noted that for solid, the particles are arranged in an ordered way compared to that of liquids or gases. So based on that aspect only, we are looking for the solid state. So properties of the solid depends on the two aspects. One is the nature of constituents particle, And the second one is the binding force. What do you mean by nature of constituent particle?
Ma'am, do we write it?
Yeah, as and when you write, I write it as a lecture notes, and you can add more points when I'll upload the notes or when you read the textbook or other reference material. Okay. So what do you mean by nature of constituent particles?
The number of electrons in photons.
Okay, I'll give you 3 examples. Sodium, NaCl, that is salt, and iodine. These 3 are solids. Sodium is a metal, so it's in solid state. And you know that sodium chloride is in solid state, and iodine is also at room temperature. These are purple color solids. So what is the difference between these 3 kind of solids?
Different arrangement of atoms.
Hmm?
The atoms are arranged differently.
Differently in the sense? Stand for
Like their physical structure, like physical formula is different.
Formula, chemical composition is different because one is a pure element sodium, the other one is a compound of sodium and chlorine, and iodine is a molecule. But other than that, all the 3 are in solid state.
Ma'am, like for sodium chloride, like the constituent particles, all of them are basically ions. As an ionic compound. For iodine, it's like 2 iodine molecules, and for sodium, it's all atoms. So it's like the nature is different in the 3 of them.
Very good, Taise. That means if you take any metal, not only sodium, any metal, you can see that it's made up of atom. So there will be millions of atoms of sodium arranged in a perfect order in the metallic sodium. But when you go to the sodium chloride, it is ions are present. So they are arranged alternatively negative and positive charges. So they're made up of ions. So it's a solid. Sodium chloride is a solid made up of ions. Sodium is a metal, which is also a solid, but is made up of atoms. But when you come to iodine, the thing is that iodine is a molecular solid. Molecular solid mean a solid which is made up of molecules. So iodine is a molecule I2. So there will be a lot of I2 molecules arranged in the lattice to form iodine as a solid in solid state. So based on the constituent particle, the nature of the constituent particle, you can divide the solids as atomic solids, ionic solids, and molecular solids. That is the first aspect where you are dividing or classifying a solid based on nature of constituent particles. So particle can be either an atom,
Ma'am, ionic,
ion, or
atomic, and
molecular. Ionic, atomic, and molecular solids. Can you give one more example for molecular solid? Because other ones you can easily give a lot of example. For atomic solid, O2 is a solid at room temperature. No, it's a gas. Think about something which is a solid in room temperature.
Ma'am, naphthalene balls, I guess. Ma'am, was naphthalene balls considered as a molecule solid?
Naphthalene balls. Yeah, naphtha
Naphthalene.
balls. Yeah, it's a hydrocarbon. It's a compound only, yeah. But the problem is that that is a different kind of arrangement, not in the form of a
Fe2.
Fe2, Fe is metal. All the metals are atomic because atoms of metals are arranged to form a metallic lattice. So all the metals are coming under atomic molecules. One example that you commonly know. Have you heard of dry ice? What is dry
Yes,
ice?
ma'am.
Ma'am, solid carbon dioxide.
Solid form of carbon dioxide, right? So that is also can be considered as a molecular solid where it is made up of CO2 molecule arranged in the lattice. That is dry ice. Because carbon dioxide does not have any liquid state, when you cool down the gas of carbon dioxide, it will be completely converting into solid form, which we call it as dry ice, or vice versa. That means carbon dioxide will sublime to carbon dioxide gas. There is no liquid state between these two, like solid and gas only is present for carbon dioxide. So this is the first way where you can classify the solid as atomic, ionic and molecular element, molecular solids based on the nature of constituent particle. Second kind of classification is based on binding forces operating between the constituent particle. Some cases that we will discuss it little later in detail. So now you can see that second classification is based on binding forces, how strong the force of attraction is there between the constituent particle. That is the second aspect of classifying solid based on the binding forces operating between the constituent particle. Right. So now we are moving into the next topic. Before that, why are liquids and gases called fluids? What is the meaning fluids?
They don't have a specific structure.
Yeah, and they can, yeah, exactly.
Without a structure. But liquids and gases, do you think that they don't have a particular shape that I
I mean
understand?
shape, yeah. Not
But they can take like the shape of.
Now I think it's because the liquid gas can move like on its own, and solids cannot move on its own. Maybe.
That is why the word flow. From flow only fluid came. A substance which has the ability to flow are called fluids. So anything which has an ability, solids cannot move by its own. But liquids and gases, the rate of flowing will be different. That depends on density, so many other things. But it has its own natural tendency to flow, the liquids and the gases. That is why they are called fluids. Substance which has the ability to flow are called fluids. That's just the term,
Ma'am,
but
you
that
can
is the
write all
meaning.
of this as lecture notes.
Whichever you find important and what you feel like to be written, that you should write. And you can later add, improve, whatever. If you're thinking that you learn something new, some of you already know this thing, so they don't have to write it. But if you're learning something new, that you can note it down. Right, this was just a general thing because this fluid term we will be using more frequently in this, throughout this year. So it should be knowing that a substance which has the ability to flow are coming under fluid. So mostly solids, except solid, liquids and gases are coming under this category. Properties of solid, that again you know from your primary classes. So I'm not going through it. Once I'll upload, you can go through it, but that's not important because they're just talking about the rigidity, non-compressibility, all those properties, the general properties of solid that you already know from your lower classes. So now the other kind of classification, that means you can classify the solids based on the arrangement of the constituent particle, and that classification is as crystalline solids and amorphous solid. This is a very important aspect because I'll be discussing in few slides, I'll be discussing important board exam questions related to this topic. Okay, so this is a very important aspect. You should be able to differentiate what is a crystalline solid and what is an amorphous solid. Okay, let me ask. Yes, Jadin. From the diagram, as you can see over here, how you will differentiate crystalline and amorphous solid?
Crystalline is arranged in more uniform manner, and amorphous is a bit more Randomly arranged or
Okay. Anybody else wants to add any point on this?
Amorphous.
Amorphous? Please complete.
Crystalline is tightly packed, whereas amorphous is not.
Okay.
Crystalline is stationary.
It has more intermolecular space.
It has more force of attraction. Crystalline solids, while amorphous, since there are bit irregularities, does not have great force of attraction.
Yeah, very good. That means, as all of you said, it's correct only. That is, it's related to the arrangement. Here in the crystalline, you can see the arrangement is so perfect in each layer. You can see a orderness, right? A particular order is maintained in each line and it's so perfectly arranged. But if you look into the amorphous and if you want to see the arrangement in each line or each row or something, if you look, you can see that order is not maintained throughout, right? That word throughout is important. In crystalline solid, the arrangement of particle is, or like the order or arrangement is more ordered, or you can say it's maintained the geometrical arrangement throughout the solid. If you take any part of crystalline substance or crystalline solid, the arrangement is so perfect. But for amorphous, some area the arrangement is correct or perfect. But in other area, it's not correct, right? So that means it's not maintained throughout the solid. The arrangement is not perfect throughout the arrangement or throughout the solid. That is what it's coming under amorphous. Because we know that in solids compared to liquids and gases, the arrangement is more ordered. But still, in amorphous solids, in certain area, you may find them as ordered, but in the other areas of the same substance, the order is not maintained. So that is a major difference between crystalline and amorphous solid. That means we are classifying the solids based on the arrangement of the particles in it. So crystalline is more ordered arrangement or ordered arrangement throughout the substance. But amorphous, the odd or less ordered arrangement, the order is not maintained throughout the substance. That is how you can classify crystalline and amorphous. Okay.
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you give an example for amorphous?
That's what my next question. I want examples from you all. Crystalline and amorphous.
Ma'am, maybe, yeah, a crystalline is like a table or something.
Where have you seen the most beautiful or most geometrical arrangement? One example.
Ma'am, a table?
Ma'am, a diamond?
Diamond.
Diamonds.
Yeah, because when I use the word, I thought everyone will give that diamond. I don't know how come you got the example of table, Kritya.
Because it was right in front of me, so I just said that first.
Okay, diamond. Okay, diamond is so perfectly ordered that you can see that it's shape, diamond shape. Whenever you cut a piece of diamond, again, after cutting also the shape is maintained, right? Even if you cut into any smaller pieces, that shape is maintained. That means the geometry is maintained even if you cut in any direction. That is the importance of geometry. So geometry is so perfect that whether you cut it diagonally, horizontally, vertically, in any direction, it's maintaining its geometry. Amorphous. Any example for amorphous that you know that you're using every day?
Ma'am, graphite.
Graphite is crystalline. Because in graphite also there is perfect.
Plastic.
I'm a rubber band.
Sponge, okay. Rubber, yeah, correct. Rubber is
plastic.
Plastic, rubber, plastic. One more common thing that.
Wood.
Wood will be crystalline, like it's more ordered.
Clay.
Ma'am, like glass. Oh.
Yeah, glass. So examples, crystalline, as you can see over here, diamond, that is one of the important example. Graphite, you have ice cubes. Gold, it's a metal. you have iodine, sugar, salt, because you can see that even if you take a finest small unit of a sugar, piece of sugar, still that has got a particular shape, a geometry is there. If it's a cube, mean even if you cut again, you will get a cube. Like that, that geometry will be maintained even if you cut the object. That same applicable in the case of salt. If you take a one smallest fine powder, that piece of salt, still you can see that there is a geometry over there. But when you
how is glass amorphous? Because you cannot like restructure it, right? You can just break it, but you can't
but that is
restructure it.
not the property or difference between crystalline and amorphous. We are just looking on based on the arrangement of particle. In glass, the arrangement is not so ordered. I'll come to that point. Have anybody seen that video of making glass or plastic? Actually, I want to show it over here, but usually there is a lag when we show a video. So what you can do is like after the class, if
Ma'am,
you
you
get
can try showing it.
But the thing is that the video, audio part and the video part will go in different.
Ma'am, most of us have seen it either in real life, like
That's
in
what,
a video,
yeah,
or in a game like Minecraft.
That's what I asked. Then I thought of, okay, at least 70% will be knowing. If not, please take some time today after this class to watch this video. So you might have seen that glass is actually prepared from sand. That you, at least that information you will be knowing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It's from sand. That is the silicates. That is the silica is the SiO2. That is the main constituent. Along with sand, it could be like other material, like you know that borosilicates. That mean composition is different. That glasses also different types are there. Like the one which we can use in oven is different from the normal glass, right? A glass which used for some glasses you can see that you can use in an oven for baking, some cannot be used for it. So the type of the glass, some are very hard and some are not that much. So it's like based on the composition constituent that you are adding along with the sand makes the property of the glass different. But those who might have watched the video of preparing the glass, you can see that it's actually, I got a picture of it. Yeah. It's like in the form of a liquid highly heated with silica and other components. And that liquid is super cooled suddenly so that it gets solidified. So that means it's actually glass is considered as a super cooled liquid rather than a perfect solid, a liquid which is suddenly cools down, because when it was a very high temperature, immediately it will be placed in a cold water or water will be sprinkled or sprayed on it so that the temperature suddenly drops down so that it solidifies.
Ma'am, glass is neither solid nor liquid, right?
Right. That's what it's known as super cooled liquid, a liquid which is cooled suddenly to a very low temperature so that it solidifies and appears a solid property. So that is why amorphous substances are also known as pseudo-solids. That points are coming in my slide, so I will discuss that at later. So my point is that amorphous substance, they are coming under solid, but they does not follow all the properties of a perfect solid. Perfect solids are coming in crystalline. So somebody was asking why glass is considered as an amorphous, because when you look into its composition, the arrangement, it does not follow that perfect arrangement like in the crystalline.
Ma'am, even a sponge is amorphous here.
Yeah, the
Right.
arrangement should be like this. So plastic, rubber, all these kind of things are coming under amorphous, and crystalline mean you can easily find it. If you cut it down also, that geometry is maintained, then that substance is crystalline, because the geometry is maintained because the arrangement is perfect. But if you might have noticed that when you break a glass, okay, you will get different pieces. Even the fine powder formed from it will not have a particular shape. Each one will got different. That means there is no a particular shape or geometry followed. In whichever way it is breaking, based on that the shape will be different. It's not that it will break down in similar way. So that is a major difference between crystalline and amorphous solid. So if you're doing the property comparison, compare the properties of crystalline and amorphous, first point will be shape. The crystalline has got a geometrical shape. Geometrical shape means it will be either square or cube, or it could be like a diamond shape, or it could be like a rhombic shape. That means a geometrical shape can be found out in the shape of that particular substance. But for amorphous, it is a solid, and we know that solids has got a particular definite shape, but that shape will be irregular. You cannot say that it is a perfect cube, or it's perfect square, or it's perfect diamond shape. You cannot compare it with a geometrical shape. Already non-geometrical shapes are there, rhombic, orthorhombic, like that. You can't compare it with a geometrical shape. It will be having a shape. That shape is like something that you can't compare it with a geometry, a particular geometry. So that is the difference between crystalline and the amorphous solid. Shape of crystalline and amorphous solid. Crystalline means a perfect geometrical arrangement. The shape can be okay. It's look like a diamond shape. It's like a cubic arrangement. You can compare it with any of the geometrical shape. But amorphous means it's irregular. It will have a shape that also considered as a solid. Solid will have a definite shape, but that shape will be irregular. So that is for the property of crystalline and amorphous. Second point is melting point. Melting point means sharp melting point, because if you take example of ice, ice will melt at 0 degrees Celsius, right? Wherever you take ice, or whenever you do this melting process, still the temperature will be 0 degree, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
So that's why the word meaning sharp melting. That means on particular temperature, it will melt. At 0 degrees Celsius, whatever may happen, ice will melt. But for the amorphous substance, you might have seen that when you heat plastic, plastic will not melt immediately, but first it will get softens, right? When you start heating, it first gets softens, then after some time, it will start melting. So that means it is a range of temperature. Say example, you can say 100 to 110 degrees Celsius, a range of temperature. You cannot say that it's a sharp at particular value. It will be okay, 50 to 60 or say 70 to 90, like that. There will be a range of temperature at which the melting of amorphous substance will happen. It happens very gradually. First, it will get softened, then it start melting slowly, and it happens in over a range of temperature. So there is no sharp melting point for amorphous substance. So if you want to compare crystalline amorphous, you can check with the melting point. If a melting point of a substance is not a constant value and it is having in a range of temperature, then you can say that that particular solids are amorphous. So that is the second property. Third property is cleavage. Cleavage means, that is the one example that I have taken is already discussed, is about diamond. If you cut a piece of diamond, again the shape of diamond is maintained, whether in a diagonally or horizontally or vertically. In whichever angle you cut a piece of diamond, that shape is maintained. That is applicable to all crystalline substances, that when you cut with a sharp tool, it's not like you're breaking it by throwing or something. You're cutting with a sharp tool using a knife or something. Okay, you can't use the knife to cut diamond, but if you take any other crystalline substance and you're cutting with a sharp tool, it will be breaking or cleaving into the two pieces with the smooth surfaces. So that is because the geometrical arrangement is so perfect that whether you cut it down in any direction, that surface, that smooth surface you will be getting. But for amorphous, when you cut it down, you will get irregular surfaces. That you might have seen while breaking the plastic or glass or something, rubber. That is because they are amorphous. So that is the first 3 points. Am I clear till here?
Now, what about paper? Is paper crystalline or amorphous?
What do you think?
I think it's crystalline.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fourth point is heat of fusion. So you may get confused with the meaning of melting point or melting with heat of fusion. I think in your grade 9 or something, you're learning about latent heat, heat of fusion, etc. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
What is
yes.
heat of fusion? What is it?
Energy required to change this.
Fusion means what? What is the meaning of fusion?
It's like melting.
Melting. It's like that means converting a solid to liquid completely. Heat of fusion mean when you're talking about melting, okay, you are talking about the temperature. You're talking about the temperature at which a solid is converted to liquid. Here, the quantities does not make any difference. For melting of ice mean if you take one piece of ice or 10 pieces of ice cubes or 100 pieces of ice cubes, whatever the quantity, its melting point is 0 degree. So here the quantity is not important. We are just looking at the temperature at which that reaction or that change is happening from a solid to liquid. That is what a melting point. Right? Okay. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
But heat of fusion mean it is defined for what you can say a particular amount. Say example 1 gram. So if you want to define heat of fusion of ice, you need to take 1 gram of ice. Or if you want to define heat of fusion of aluminium, you need to weigh 1 gram of aluminium and use it. So that means the quantity is kept constant and heat of fusion is in terms of amount of energy. Amount of heat energy you're supplying to completely convert a particular 1 gram of a solid to liquid. So that quantity is important because that heat you have to supply when you take 10 gram will be different. And when you take 100 gram, the heat should be supplied will be different. Okay, that is why heat of fusion is defined for a non-quantity or you can say a particular fixed amount. Say example 1 gram. You have to take 1 gram of all the substances. Then you have to look how much heat energy you are supplying to convert that solid to liquid state. That is what heat of fusion is. That is in terms of energy, heat energy. So heat of fusion values will be, it's equal to enthalpy. It will be like, okay, 1000 kilojoule per mole. If you take 1 mole of a substance, it will need 1000 kilojoule energy to convert it into liquid state. That is what the meaning of heat of fusion. So don't get confused with melting point and heat of fusion. Melting point is irrespective of the quantity. If you take any amount of ice, the melting point is fixed as 0 degree, right? And it's about just the temperature. How much energy you are providing, that is not noticed. Here, they're just talking about at what temperature a solid is converted to liquid. But heat of fusion is, it depends on the quantity. So if you're defining it, you take a particular quantity of a substance and you're measuring how much heat energy is supplied for this conversion of a solid to liquid. So it will be always in units, energy, unit of energy, kilojoule per mole. Okay. So heat of fusion, if you compare the heat of fusion of crystalline and amorphous substance, for heat of fusion, again, it's a fixed value, a characteristic value is there. That means for ice, the heat of fusion is 1000, say example, 1000 kilojoule per mole. Then for a dry ice, it is 2000 kilojoule per mole. Like that, the value is got fixed. But for amorphous substance, there is no definite value. It will, again, will be in a range or it will change. Is that clear? Are you all there or already run away?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So that is about the fourth property, crystalline amorphous, that is heat of fusion. It's about amount of heat that you're providing to convert a solid to liquid, a non-amount of solid to liquid. So usually you will take 1 mole of a substance to do this calculation, or a 1 gram, like a particular constant value in for all the substances. Anisotropy, I'll come later because I'll explain a little in detail. So that point I'll discuss later. If you want to write, you can write it down, but I will explain it in a different slide. The next one is nature. Crystallines are said to be the true solids, because they have possessing all the properties of a perfect solid. So crystalline solids are called true solid, and amorphous substances are called pseudo solids or supercooled liquids. Pseudo, the word meaning pseudo is false. So they are not actual. So that is why it is also amorphous substances are also known as pseudo solids or supercooled liquids. That is why glass is said to be a supercooled liquid. Last property is order in arrangement of particle. Order in arrangement of particles. For crystalline, it's a long range order, and for amorphous, it's a short range order. I have already explained it over here, because as you can see over here, the arrangement, okay, if you see the arrangement in any direction, it is for a very long range of distance, like you can see. But for amorphous, these three are arranged. On a very short range, there is a perfect arrangement. Here the arrangement is perfect. Here the arrangement is perfect. Here the arrangement is perfect. But that arrangement is only for a very short range. But when you look into crystalline for a very long range, the arrangement is perfect. Like that, you can see it's only happening between less number of particles. The arrangement is perfect only for less number. So that is what the meaning of order in arrangement. Long range order for crystalline and short range order for amorphous. Okay, the last property, that is anisotropy. In order to explain anisotropy, I'll take an example. Okay, through that example, I'll explain. So I'm just taking an ionic compound. So ionic compound contains negative and positive ions arranged. So you can see that the arrangement can be vertically, like in a rows or columns. Okay, if you're talking about the total electrical charge, okay, you can calculate the total charge in each rows. So first row, second row. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you show the table? Just want to see the last one. Let's take a screenshot. The order and arrangement of particles. Oh, 1 second.
Done?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Looking into this diagram, tell me what is the total charge in first row? If you calculate the total charge, what will be the total charge?
Ma'am, it will be positive, right?
Yeah, it will be positive because there are 3 positive and 2 negative, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So overall 2 negative will be cancelled with 2 positive. So overall will be a positive. Okay. What about second row?
Negative.
Negative.
Negative. And if you look into the column wise, rather than this one, take the first column, second column. I can divide it as different columns also. Okay. In the first column, what will be the overall charge?
That will be neutral charge.
0.
Neutral.
Right? Okay. The same thing you can do for diagonally also, right? Diagonal.
Yes, ma'am.
What will be the overall charge?
Positive.
But 4 positive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that means if a solid which is having different values of a same property, that means we are looking on the electrical charge, total electrical charge. But when you measure the electrical charge in different direction, in each direction the value was different, right? When you when you do it in a row wise or in a column wise or a diagonally, what you can see is like the values you were getting was different value. It was not the same thing, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
That phenomena is known as anisotropy. So the phenomenon of having different magnitude, that means different value for the same physical property when measured from different direction. So when you measure electrical charge, total electrical charge vertically, or when you measure it in diagonally or horizontally or top to bottom, in whichever direction you measure, in each direction you're getting different values. That phenomena is known as anisotropy. The same physical property when measured in different direction, you're getting different values. That phenomena is known as anisotropy. So this is the property of a crystalline substance. Even though it is a perfectly, because of its perfect arrangement, when you measure these kind of physical properties, not only electrical charge, the other property is refractive index. Refractive index is another important property where you will get different values when measured in different direction for a crystalline substances. So these kind of physical properties. So this happens in the case of crystalline substances. But for amorphous substances, they are isotropic. They are isotropic. Isotropic mean when you measure a property in whichever the direction, you will get the same value. That means when you measure the electrical neutrality or total electric charge vertically, horizontally, diagonally, in whichever direction, the total value will be same. That is what isotropic. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that is what the
Ma'am,
yeah.
Ma'am, can you repeat for isotropic?
Isotropic mean a same physical property when measured in different direction will get the same magnitude. Same value. That means if you measure the electrical neutrality in all the directions.
Same magnitude, but the
Yeah.
direction is still different.
Yeah, when you try it in different, say example for amorphous substance, when you look for this electrical charge, when you calculate in all the direction, it will be say example, it will be 0, mean it will be 0 in all the direction. Because there is some randomness in that randomness somehow cancels the effect, and so that in all the direction the property has the same magnitude. But for a crystalline substances, due to its strong and ordered arrangement, when measured in different angles or different direction, the property will have different values. I hope I made myself clear in this. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's what the anisotropy. So you can see that crystalline substances are anisotropic in nature, but amorphous substances are isotropic in nature. So these are, I think, seven properties which has been compared between crystalline and amorphous substance. Any doubts so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay, but I have a question before we disperse for today. Okay, this question, as we have already discussed, you might have noticed this kind of thing for a very old vintage style homes. Okay, for the window glasses at vintage homes and all, you can see that they are thicker at the bottom, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Why it is so? Because when it's brand new, the building or something, the glass is so perfect. But as it goes, as it passes years and it's very old, you can see that it gets thicker at the bottom compared to the top part of it. So why it is so happening?
Is it because its structure changes or the shape changes?
But now you know that glass is what kind of solid?
Super cooled.
Super cool. They are amorphous, super cooled liquids. That means liquids has a ability to
Flow.
flow. Ability to flow. That means when this glass is exposed to the temperature, okay, when under the temperature at heat, because of the heat it is experiencing for a very long period of time. It will not happen in a day or a year or two. It happens because it's experiencing this change heat for a very long period of time. And because of that, it's like actually showing the property of a amorphous substance, that is a super cool liquid, that it's showing slightly a flowy nature, so that it just settles at the bottom, so that it just comes down. The particles settles in one area because it's just slowly flowing. That is the reason.
Fluidity?
Yeah, fluidity, because it's a super cooled liquid, and then under the temperature, because of heat, it's just showing its original property. I have the answer for it already typed in the slide. Okay, I'll upload it. But these are the questions that you need to expect from crystalline and amorphous for your exam. Because now, as we discussed yesterday, analysis and application questions are more, rather than directly asking what is the difference in the property of crystalline and amorphous. That is the way of asking questions for CBSE before. Now they don't ask it like generally as an understanding question. They ask it as analysis and application. Another important question. Why does window glass of old building look milky? That also you might have noticed. Very old buildings have a milky appearance on its glass. Why? Anybody? After learning so much thing about the glass and amorphous. Anybody want to try?
Ma'am, do any particles get trapped in between the spaces?
Getting trapped? No, because it's just light. It's exposed to the light. Anybody else? Want to try?
Is it because it's exposed to high temperatures?
Yeah.
It starts losing its properties.
Actually, what happens is like a glass is exposed to the light, day and night, right? Day and night mean it is exposing to a change in temperature. Heating in the morning, like it get heated in the morning, and in the night time it get cooled. Again, next day this is happening. And if it happens for a year of 20 to 30 years or more than that, it's not happening within a 10 or something. It's about 20 to 30 years. If it is experiencing this change every day, morning it's get heated, in the evening, like in the night it's get cooled, and this is known as annealing. You might have heard about the word annealing. I just typed that. Annealing is a process where a substance is exposed to heating and cooling. Again, heating and cooling. You're repeatedly heating and cooling, but this happens for glass naturally because of day and night. So due to annealing, amorphous substance somehow gets a property of a crystalline substance. That is the reason for its milky appearance. So I have that in my notes, so I'll try to upload the note. I'll just share it.
And that's it for today?
Yeah, that's for today, because I think I ended this part of solids like amorphous and crystalline. Okay, so a glass is an amorphous solid which is super cool liquid of high viscosity and hence possess fluidity. Due to this fluidic property, it is thicker at the bottom than at the top. That was the answer for my first question. Why old window glasses are thicker at the bottom? Second question is like milkiness of the glasses due to the fact that it is undergoing heating and cooling during the day and night. That is annealing over the number of years. That means it is what you can say, changing its properties slightly from amorphous to crystalline. That is the reason for the milky appearance of the glass. Okay, so I hope all what we discuss is clear to all of you. If you have any doubt, please clear it. Don't take it for the next day so that we can continue with the next topic tomorrow. Any doubt for today's lesson?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
No, ma'am.
I think that should be.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So start looking for these kind of application and analysis question every day. You will find a lot. I got two or three examples for you, which is from the board exam questions of previous years. But when you look into any sites or guide, you will get more. So if you're getting something very interesting like this, please bring it. We'll have a discussion in this platform. Okay, so bye. Take care. See you all tomorrow. Bye. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.